video, we have somewhat of a seller beware type of situation about sending your grails to auction right now in today's market. And I have a real life example of my friend who unfortunately had a very undesirable outcome sending his grails to heritage auctions. And then we're going to talk about a funny story about how I recently acquired a stack of grails, and I'll put them up on the screen here. A funny story about how I came into possession of these. And so stick with me to the end to hear that story. Also, I just want to say, I apologize if you're hearing any congestion or anything. I'm fighting a cold right now, but we're going to power through it. Make sure you check out brycecomics.com. Sign up for the newsletter while you're there. It gets you entered to win 2 free slabs this month, and you get first access to new collections and stuff that come through, like these grails. A lot of these grails that we're going to talk about later in this video may still be available for trade. It's been a couple days by the time you're watching this that they've been on the site. So make sure you're following the newsletter over there and following me over on Instagram. It's where I post stuff as well. So let's talk about the story about my friend. So my friend decided to send his grails to heritage auctions, and he shot me an email and said, hey, I decided to send my grails. Here's the link if you want to track the items. And they were books that were interesting to me, so I decided to track them. And when they finally hit the auction block, it was 3 months later, and they just absolutely tanked. They just did not perform, and it went for really low prices, to the point where, like, I was even in on it up to a certain point. I was like, I could make money off this at how low they were going. I ended up not winning any of them. And I shot him an email and was like, hey, man, I'm really sorry for the outcome of those books. And he said, dude, I am absolutely floored. I am guttered. I was literally on the floor, curled up in a ball when I saw what these books sold for. And he gave me a little bit more of the story, is that he's been talking to his wife for 3 months now, after he decided to send them and did send them off, about how they're going to have some extra money when these books sell because of what he was expecting them to go for. And then it turns out that they actually lost a little bit of money. And this is, just the nature of auctions, is that you never know what they're going to sell for. And I think we as humans tend to be overly optimistic about what our books are actually going to achieve. And in today's market, I'm not seeing record-breaking sales, folks. And I just want to provide, an alternative if you're thinking of sending your grails to heritage or whatever the case may be. And just the whole process there, the downsides of sending books to auction, waiting months for them to actually sell, and then possibly another month until you actually get paid, and just all the pitfalls of that, and a potential other option. So here's the other option. I was perusing Instagram and I saw a post where a guy said, it was just a picture of a bunch of grails in a box, and the caption said, I'm thinking of sending these to auction. If anyone wants to shoot an offer, shoot me an offer. And I did something that I never do, which is I made an offer to him. And I thought, I just don't do that anymore. I don't like chase leads. I don't like search Facebook or Craigslist or anything for comic book listings, because first and foremost, it's just so frustrating. The percentage of deals that actually go through when you reach out to other people is so low, and you end up dealing with people that oftentimes are unrealistic or don't even really know the business of comics. And so at this point in the business, people see the YouTube videos, they see me out in the community, see me buying collections, and they know typically what I can offer, and they reach out to me. So they're much more ready and willing to sell when they're coming to me. But this one was just 10 books or so. They're grails. I'm like, it's not going to take me that long, and I have a really strong offer for this guy. So I think it will be worth my time to make the offer. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, I just want to throw this out there. I think I can make you a really strong offer. I can do 15% off, 85% of fair market value for your grails, and I can get you paid the next day if you overnight ship them to me. Here's why I think it's a great offer. I think, if you send them to Heritage, likely they're going to charge you more than 15%. So right off the bat, you'll be getting more money. And then also it might take 3 months for them to get them actually on the auction block. So the way that works with auction houses is it depends on the timing. If you send them books, they put them in the appropriate auction, and the appropriate auction might not be till later in the year, and they kind of pick and choose where they want to put it. So it depends on the timing, but it's not uncommon for it to take at least 3 months for your books to actually come up for sale. And then the buyers have a period of time to actually pay. And then a lot of times the buyers don't pay. And then the book has to go back up to auction. You start the whole process again. Almost every time I'm in auctions and I'm watching, I have a watch list, at least a few of them, I get an email that says, this book is still available for sale that you were tracking. And that means that the buyer who won did not actually complete the purchase. So it happened. So I said, all of those things considered, and the state of the market, that's the biggest factor here, is that we're seeing a steady decline in the market of like 5 to 10% per month. And, I don't expect the market to go up in the next 3 months. So all of those things combined, I think I can make you a cash offer for your books that you would walk away with more money tomorrow from me than you would in 3 months from Heritage. And he said, wow, that's a really great offer. Let me think about it. Give me a couple days. So he reaches out to me on Wednesday afternoon and says, all right, let's do the deal for $62,000. That was the agreed upon price, which was about 85% of the fair market value. And I said, great. And I gave him, my shipping address and all of that. And then a little bit later, he sent another message, says, all right, I'm ready to send these. As soon as I see the wire come through, I'll head down to FedEx and overnight these to you. And I said, oh, I'm really sorry for the miscommunication, but I'm not going to be making payment until the books are in hand. Sorry if that was miscommunicated. And he goes, absolutely, that was miscommunicated. Never in my life have I sent a book to somebody before they paid me for it. And we had this conversation where it was like, yeah, but when a customer or a collector is buying a book, of course they pay for it first, but I'm a dealer. It's just a firm policy I've had for 4 years. I've never once strayed from that policy. Even if it's my best friend, I don't pay until the books are in hand. And that's because any number of things can happen. It's not even really about trust, but in a lot of cases, you're dealing with complete strangers. And so that's a factor too. But even if it's not a complete stranger, it's still a firm policy and it's just business. If you were to reach out to any dealer or any auction house, they're not going to pay you a penny until the books are in hand. It's just quite simple. And so we kind of got to a stalemate where it was like, and I had to just say like, I'm really sorry, but I'm just going to have to walk away. I'm not going to pay for them up front. And he goes, well, I have a bigger social media following than you. And if you were to just disappear, I said, well, listen, if I were to just disappear, I would go out of business. And he goes, yeah, but I don't care if you go out of business. I'm still out my $62,000. And I goes, but wait a minute, let's backtrack here for a sec, because you said you have a bigger social media following than me. And I'm looking at his page, and I'll put it up on the screen here. It's Dr. Brady's Comics. And by the way, go give him a follow. This guy has some great books. He's very reasonable. And, so you definitely should be following his page if you like Grails. And so I'm looking at his page, though, and it says 2,000 followers. I'm like, how do you have more of a social media following than me when you only have 2,000 followers? And he goes, oh, well, that's my comic book account. My main account is Dr. Brady Smith. And he goes, I'm a dentist. And so I click on Dr. Brady Smith and I go, oh, wow. And I scroll down here and I see this picture right in the center there. And I go, oh my God, he's done dental work for Chris Hemsworth. That's Thor. He does dental work for Thor. And then I look a little bit closer and I realize that's not Chris Hemsworth. That's him. Because I look at the rest of his page and I go, this Chris Hemsworth looking MFer. And then I go and watch some of his other reels and I find this one. And I'm not going to put the audio on there, but it's him doing dental work with a thong that says floss. You can see what it says there. And the music playing, I don't want to get a copyright strike, but the music playing is, there's some hoes in this house. There's some hoes in this house. There's some hoes in this house. And so I'm just busting up laughing. Like, this is the guy. This is the guy. And I had no idea. All I saw was comic books on the other page. I had no idea, And so I ended up sending him a bunch of references and I'm like, hey, by the way, hilarious page. But again, like what am I going to do? Like go chase down your followers from your dental page to get my 62 grand. I'm like, so I send him my references. He checks my references. He says, hey, your references all love you. I feel really comfortable about this. I'm going to go ahead and overnight ship them. So he went and overnight shipped them. It was Wednesday afternoon. I get them late morning, Thursday morning, open it. Everything is fine. I send him the wire right under the wire cutoff time. He has the money in his account in less than 24 hours. And that's what I think is a really solid service to the community. You can have money in your account in less than 24 hours for these big grails. And I want to be really clear about this. It's only the 85% for big grails, like your FF1, your Hulk 181s, and all the books that we're about to look at, because where I make my money is I offer them for trade. And in order to trade them, I add a 20% premium to the trade value. So if it's a $1,000 book, I usually need about $1,200. There's a little bit of nuance to that, but usually 20%. And so if it's $1,000 book, I need $1,200 in trade value. The reason for the premium is there's a bunch more work involved. And especially if it's a $20,000 book and you're going to send me 150 slabs, there's a ton of work involved in processing, selling, packing, shipping, listing, potential risk with 150 slabs versus just the one slab. So there's a 20% premium, but it increases my margin a little bit. So that's how I'm able to do it. And that's how it's a win-win-win. The seller gets, 85% of FMV, which in today's market, I am very confident is more than you would get if you send them to an auction house, wait 3 months for them to sell, and then factor in their fees. So you avoid all the biggest thing to me too. I mean, obviously money is a huge one. If you get more or the same money right away, huge deal. But peace of mind, knowing what you're going to get, that 3 months where you're talking to your wife, where you're checking the listing over and over and over every day for 3 months, and you see that your $20,000 book is sitting at $2,000, and you check it for 3 months, and then of course it's only the last minute that matters in auctions, but you erase all of that uncertainty and you get a fair price, a really solid offer up front. So I think it's a good deal. It's a win-win-win. The seller, you get your money right away. I get to make a little bit of money. Other members in the community get to consolidate their more common stuff for these holy grails, which are a lot harder to save up cash and stuff. And so one of the beauties of trading in a down market is instead of making a purchase for a grail, your initial investment could go down because the market's declining. But if you're trading books that are also declining for a book that's declining, it's kind of a wash, if that makes sense. So trades are a really cool way to, avoid putting new money into the hobby. And so, but of course, cash is king. And if you can often get a much better deal with cash. So there's just a lot of nuance, but trading can be a lot of fun. And, for a lot of people, it's the only way to justify getting a $20,000 book without money leaving your checking account. That for those of us that can't explain to our wife why a $20,000 purchase was a good idea for a comic book. Whereas if you do a trade, she doesn't see any money leave the account and you get your grail, and you don't even have to tell her how much it's worth. But anyways, depends on your relationship, right? Maybe you're lithograph comics and she's, pressuring you to spend more money, which we're all very envious of that situation you got there. So let's go take a look at these grails and just enjoy the awesomeness that they are. All right, so starting off with, in my opinion, the most special book out of this entire stack because of the grade. This is an 8.0 old label Avengers #1, Origin and First Appearance of the Avengers. It's a beautiful copy. It's a solid 8.0. There's a small chance, a chance nonetheless, of getting a bump to an 8.5. I think it would tap out at an 8.5. And I have it listed on the website. I put the cert number too. You can go check the grader's notes. But, old label cases are sometimes graded more harshly in this first gen case. But, it's always a risk. And so anyways, I'm going to make my margins. I decided I don't want to take the risk, but because I'm going to make my margins selling it as is. One of the most important Marvel grails, in my opinion, just because of the franchise of the Avengers, just how huge it is in the MCU. And to be able to have an 8.0, I just think it's a no-brainer to consolidate, $20,000 or whatever it is for the trade on this, to get this and get rid of, that stuff that's easy to attain. It's very difficult to attain this book in an 8.0. So I think this is a great opportunity. And by the way, I want to also shout out, after doing this deal with Brady, go give him a follow on both of those social media accounts, his comic book one for good comic book deals on Grails, and his dentist one for hilarious reels. So, and now that I've done business with him, as a customer, a collector, I would absolutely feel comfortable sending him money for a Grail in advance. And you can always use my shop as well as a middleman. If you didn't feel comfortable doing that, you can send them to my shop and I'll facilitate the deal and I won't charge any money on that. That's an offer that I have for anybody in the community. Werewolf by Night 32 and 8.5. What's special about this is it is a Mark Jewelers insert variant, first Moon Knight. Now this is really cool to see. This one actually just sold this morning, so it's on its way out. But we have Hulk 181 in a 9.6, First Appearance Wolverine, a 9.4, a 9.2, and a 9.0. So really cool to see the progression there of this iconic key. Amazing Spider-Man 129 and a 9.2. I'll set that over there. Somebody had a question on it. Giant Size X-Men #1 and a 7.5 with white pages. CPR Candidates definitely has not been pressed or cleaned and has pressable defects. Tales of Suspense 39 and a 3.0. First appearance of Iron Man. This one also sold this morning. Somebody jumped on it for the cash price because it's like $5,000, $5,500. It's just crazy to see that kind of price on this book. I mean, it was over $10,000 not too long ago. Strange Tales #110 and a 3.0. This also just sold this morning because again, it's first Doctor Strange, and I think it was like $1,300. It's cool to see these books actually come back into the realm of reason. So here we have Detective Comics #39 from 1940, 6.0 with white pages. The reason it has white pages is because the interior has been lightened. This book has some heavy restoration, but it's just an awesome early tech nonetheless. Third appearance of Robin. This would be another one that I think is a no-brainer to do a trade for. Some common stuff to get this incredibly rare early Detective Comics. And last but not least, Batman #181 in a 6.0 first Poison Ivy. So I want to reiterate something and just make sure that I'm making myself very clear about the types of books that I'm talking about here, because I've seen some other YouTube videos recently saying that there's some signs of strength in the market, and what they're talking about is like one-of-one books, these huge mega grails like an FF1 9.6 or pre-code horror books that only come up for sale every so often. And those kind of books are never a good indicator of the market overall. I mean, they kind of like are in their own category. What I'm talking about in this video are your AF15 in like the 1.0 to the 5.0, or your FF1, you know, in low grade, your Hulk 1 in low grade, unless it's like a rare opportunity, something that just doesn't come up all the time. And you know, those grails are very common in every single auction. You're going to see all of the Silver Age mega keys. So I'm talking about those. So yeah, just wanted to make that clear. Thank you for sticking with me, and big shout out to Dr. Brady. Make sure you go follow his 2 pages, and don't forget we always have a giveaway here on the YouTube channel. Subscribe, comment, and like. You're entered to win 2 free slabs. Head over to BryceComics.com, sign up for the newsletter, because we have some massive collections coming in probably within a week of this video dropping, and we're going to have some huge Whatnot shows too. So there's a link down in the description for $15 toward your first purchase on Whatnot, and we'll have stuff in the buy now for $15, so you can come by and pick up something free if you're new. I appreciate you guys. Thanks, and we'll catch you in the next video. Bye.